All right, and we are back inside the Now Morning Show, Trinidad and Tobago. Thank you so much for rejoining us. I am Natalee Legore. And I know that there has been a lot of talk on social media about vaccination safe zones and just where these zones are going to be, who will be eligible. So we're going to get into it with the Minister of Health. Who better to speak to us about that than the Minister of Health? So let us welcome to the program the Honorable Terrence Deyalsingh, Member of Parliament for St. Joseph. Good morning to you, Minister.
Morning, Natalie. Morning to your viewers and listeners. Pleasure to be here.
Yes,
Happy
always a pleasure talking to you. Minister, let's get...
birthday to me.
Oh my God, I knew I was forgetting. Happy birthday to you.
No.
Happy
it's
birthday
happy day after birthday to me.
Happy day after.
Happy day after birthday
I don't care.
to me.
Happy birthday, dear Minister. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, darling.
Thank you.
Yes, you know, I was rocking my brain. I was like, there's somebody important or prominent whose birthday. I couldn't remember which one.
Well, no, it's Uncle Terry's birthday.
Thank you so much, Minister. I really hope you enjoy a fantastic year ahead. I know it's always not easy, especially when you're in a position of authority and power, that it's never easy. And so I just want to wish you the best of health and circumstances and that it will be a good year for you going forward.
Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. So let us get into it. Remember, the niceness out the door, right? I just wished you a happy birthday. No further questions. Minister, there has been a lot of talks around these safe zones. First, I wanted you to explain what are these safe zones, where will they be, and why?
Place of safety. That is the safe zone context. You have this pandemic all around you. After a year and a half, you have to learn, how am I going to live with this virus? How can I reopen the economy? How can I create employment? It is not only about saving lives again, it's now about saving livelihoods. It's about easing pandemic fatigue, easing the mental health strain. So all of these, when you put it together, it's a way of having these areas of vitality, economic vitality, because certain sectors of the economy, through no fault of their own, because of the nature of their business, have borne the brunt of this pandemic economically. Casinos, bars, restaurants, because of their social gathering nature, and have to take off masks. We want to give two things. One, these areas of economic activity a reasonable chance of survival. So their business could continue. They could continue to create employment, pay their taxes, have employees put food on the table, send their children to school. And the best way to do this is this method of safe zones, like the nylon pool, which has been tried in France, United States, which has worked. So the safe zones are targeted mainly to those areas of business, which, because of the nature of their business, leisure, congregation for hours at a time, taking off masks to eat and drink, to give them an opportunity to revive themselves in a safe way whilst the pandemic rages around them.
Minister,
and rages around us.
One of the arguments we've heard from the population, right across the population, is the idea of discrimination from the government. Because if you're saying that the vaccines are not mandatory, on what basis do you say if you're vaccinated, you get to enjoy certain things and I can't?
Right. Okay. So the same argument, Natalie, is what is applicable to children going into schools. If a child has to get into a school, they have to be vaccinated. If you choose not to be vaccinated, you have to homeschool that child. Same principle applies. It's to keep everyone safe. If, as an adult after A-levels, and I know I went back to university as an adult in the Faculty of Medical Sciences. If you want to join the Faculty of Medical Sciences, Natalie, do you know what you have to do? Get vaccinated against hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and a range of things, because you were exposed to it. If you choose not to be vaccinated, well, you can't get in to medical sciences. If a parent decides not to vaccinate their child against MMR, polio, diphtheria, mumps, all these things, no problem. You will homeschool your child. So it's the same principle that has been applied to this country for decades. We are just applying it now in the middle of a pandemic to revive economic vitality to the country and to save now not only lives, but livelihoods.
And yet, Minister, while you're telling me that this is the strategy of the government to kind of, help those to generate economic activities, to help those who haven't, been able to earn over a period of time, we have a situation where we're talking about children going in schools and having to be vaccinated to ensure their safety, but the teachers aren't, or at least we don't know what percentage of the teachers are. Yeah. So isn't that an anomaly?
So you will have to have that discussion with the Minister of Education on that. I will not get into that because the Prime Minister did address that at the press conference on Thursday. But as the Minister of Education has said, everybody in that school environment has to be masked. But in the safe zones, when you're going to eat and drink, you have to take off your mask. And is that taking off of the mask in a social environment? That is the problem. Where you're in a cinema for hours, a restaurant for a couple of hours, taking off your mask. That is the big danger, and that is what the safe zones is meant to create. That zone of activity where when you take off your mask, you're in close proximity, you are relatively safe.
So who is going to ensure that the people in these areas are vaccinated? Because it can't just be the patrons. It has to be all the workers and all the categories of people who are coming in, whether it's a delivery truck person who has to come in for. So how are we going to monitor this or evaluate this?
So if you had, I think you'd have heard Minister Stuart Young describe an outline on Thursday. The details are being worked out. But basically, everyone in those safe zones, employees, employers have to be vaccinated. And the onus is going to be on the owners of these establishments. As they have suggested to us, that they will take the responsibility of ensuring vaccination because they want to open. And that was part of the dialogue we had with owners of these establishments and the associations.
Talk to us about the categories of people who will be doing these safe zones, because as we heard from DOMA, it's impossible to apply that to those kind of businesses where, you like, let's say a variety store, people are going in and out, that it's not feasible there. So talk to us about the areas or the categories of businesses that the safe zone will be applied to.
So it's applied to those areas of economic activity which mainly straddle the leisure and social types of business. It doesn't apply to retail because in retail, as a transaction for 10 minutes, you keep your mask on. In those areas, casinos, bars, restaurants, gyms, and so on, you are there for prolonged periods. You are there exercising, you have to take off your mask. In a restaurant, you are eating and drinking, you have to take off your mask. In a casino, you are also eating and drinking, you have to take off your mask. And you are there for prolonged periods of time.
So will we see this being applied to bars as well?
Yes. That is what distinguishes those safe zones from retail, from a bookstore, from a variety store. Okay?
So why
because you are in those situations close together with your mask off.
Why haven't we seen the reopening of bars then, if they're being given the opportunity to say, okay, once you're vaccinated? Because I know that the Barkeepers and Operators Association had indicated months ago that up to 70% of their people had been vaccinated, and maybe by now they're 90, I don't know, 95. Why aren't we seeing the reopening of bars, since they can now say, okay, once you're vaccinated, you can sit and have your drink?
We are tackling this from an industry, from multiple industries at the same time, from October the 11th. And as Minister Young would have indicated on Thursday, in the first instance, no alcohol is to be served, because alcohol adds another layer of, what's the correct word, of challenge. When people are under the influence of alcohol, their inhibitions drop and things go awry. So we are applying it to a whole slew of industries under the category of leisure, congregation, social. We don't want to pick out one. So we are doing it for bars and restaurants, casinos, theaters, cinemas, and gyms and so on. So all those businesses have enough time to register the employees, because they have to get a database of the employees who are vaccinated. We are currently working out behind the scenes the penalties that need to be applied, because there are going to be penalties.
Yeah.
So the penalties will apply across the board, not bars only.
So in other words, we're going to see legislation we're going to see new legislation to treat with this.
Well, it may not be legislation. The Attorney General is working on this under the Public Health Ordinance and the regulations. That's why we are not rushing to open bars first and this second. It's going to be a holistic approach. All the details now are being worked out behind the scenes.
You know, I understand what the government is trying to achieve, but I do remember even hearing in restaurants where people have refused to be vaccinated. So how are we going to manage that where we have a lot of restaurants? We've seen the restaurateurs come out and say, listen, our members don't want to be vaccinated, so we're just going to leave it. I remember at one point they were saying, listen, you have to take PCR tests, and they even had to scrap that because of the pushback and even representation from unions. So then are we really going to be able to get there where we have safe zones at all?
So Natalie, as we keep saying, the Attorney General is working out all those details behind the scenes to be applied via the public health regulations. What we have done is signal to the industry this is the way they are going. And if you had looked at the responses from the joint chambers of commerces, they have all agreed with the exception of one restaurateur. You can't please everybody in this.
Yeah.
But every single chamber of commerce has come out in full support of this, including the Bar Owners Association. Right?
Minister, let me just push the envelope a little bit. What about those places where, you know, they're kind of open concepts, you know, like you have a food court, so to speak, where, you know,
so Natalie, as I said, the Attorney General is working out all those details behind the scene.
All right.
We have raised the issue of food courts. I personally raised the issue of food courts with the Attorney General. And Natalie, all those fine details are being worked out behind the scenes. What we have done is give industry a general idea of what to expect so they could start to prepare for October the 11th. And so far, the response has been overwhelmingly positive, with the exception of one restaurateur.
Minister, are we going to see the digitization of these cards? Because I can't even imagine walking up and down with my piece of paper card to show everybody here I'm immunized so that I can get entry to a place.
So as Minister Young said on Thursday at the press conference, the answer is yes. That is being worked on right now via the Ministry of Trade, being backed up by the Ministry of Digital Transformation and the Ministry of Health in putting the data. So the answer is yes. And Minister Young did give a timeline of about 6 to 8 weeks. All these things, Natalie, are being worked out behind the scene, but we gave the country the overall picture on Thursday.
Why not just make vaccination mandatory if it is that it has to be mandatory to enter certain places? Why not just make it mandatory right across the board?
That is a decision that the Cabinet and the Honorable Prime Minister has not made. Natalie, is the same thing with MMR. You want to get into a school, be vaccinated. A parent decides not to vaccinate their child, free will, free choice, homeschool your child. You want to get into the Faculty of Medical Sciences, as I said, I had to get vaccinated. If I chose not to be vaccinated, I could not get into the Faculty of Medical Sciences. Everybody has a choice now. And we hope that people use that choice wisely, listen to the science, listen to the medical practitioners, and make that wise choice.
Well, I think you'll get some positive responses because, you know, knowing Trinis, nobody's going to give up the opportunity to dine in a fine dining restaurant. But, Minister, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
You're welcome.
Really happy birthday to you.
Bye-bye.
The Minister of Health there, Terrence Deyalsingh.